Welcome to Real Leadership. I'm Cynthia Medaglia, COO of Lindsay's Conscious Business. I'm here today to introduce you to my sister, Susan Robertson, the co-founder and CEO of Lindsay's Conscious Business. She is the author of Real Leadership, Wake 'em to Wisdom, and her upcoming book, Real Culture, The Key to Conscious Business. Welcome, Sue.
Hi, Cindy. She's my big sis.
So Sue has spent the last 32 years working globally with organizations, helping them to improve teamwork and create high-performing teams. She's also an executive coach, and she specializes in helping leaders and executives gain deep self-awareness and build emotional intelligence. I'm so excited on what we're doing here today because this is the first of a series on real leadership. And today we're talking about the power of purpose. In Sue's book, Real Leadership, Wake into Wisdom, she writes that, and I quote, "Being purpose-driven is a deep driving force and your reason for being. Purpose is what gives meaning to your life. Having a clearly defined purpose helps you create your personal and leadership roadmap for life." So, Sue, can you share more about what you mean by a deep driving force and your reason for being?
Yes, thanks, Cindy. I've often thought of purpose, because there's a lot of people who will differentiate purpose, purpose for what? Well, I think there is purpose and then the way you live out your purpose. But when I think of purpose and I think back to how I got started in all of this work, purpose has to be something that comes from your gut, something that drives you from within. And I like to say that if you're a singer, you have to sing. You have to sing every single day because it's who you are, it's what you do, it's part of your essence and part of your being. And for me, that's the essence of purpose, is that whatever it is that you're doing, you can't not do. You have to do this thing, And so for me, when I think of even my own purpose, I think about going back and just wanting to help people. It was just something simple like that. Over the years, it evolved into some other things, but it's still, the core is I want to help people move beyond wherever it is that they are so that they have inner peace and happiness. And I like doing that in the corporate world. And so I think the easiest way to say, what is purpose? It's something you can't not do. And it's what inspires you and drives you and moves you forward and gives you energy for meaning in life.
Thank you. So, how does purpose help you create that roadmap for your personal and professional life? How do you take, I want to help people and make it a career?
Yeah. Well, Cindy, from our background, as you know all too well, we grew up in poverty. We grew up poor. There were times that we had no gas or electricity or water. We were also subjected to emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. And I can remember thinking, as there were times me sitting in my bedroom, just having a candle lit and thinking to myself, I want to get out of this, right? I don't ever want to live this again. And, but I knew that if I could get out and I guess I just always believed I could get out, and get out meant leaving the neighborhood. Get out meant, creating a new life. Get out meant my defining thing was never being poor again. And yet at the same time, we grew up in a neighborhood where we saw people suffering a lot of the same things that we suffered. And I always just remember thinking, well, if I could do it, so could they. But I got to do it. I got to do it. And so that's what I mean by this driving force. It wasn't like the neighborhood was so bad that, that it sucked so much that I had to leave. It was just, but that was part of it. But it was more of, I felt like I needed to get out, get better, move on. And so then when it came to sort of figuring out what I wanted to do, you and I put ourselves through college, same with our sister Laura. um, I realized that what we've been doing to heal ourselves with psychology. And so I looked into social working and psychologists, and I realized they didn't make enough money. I, I made that vow, I will never be poor again. And I didn't like struggling either, because even when we did have money growing up, it was a struggle from what do you pay, what don't you pay, you know, you give up light so you can have food, that sort of thing, or you give up electricity so you can eat. And so I realized that this whole thing about helping others, me getting out, but then helping others get out, however you define that. I actually got into banking, and I found a form of a purpose, which was, and it really fit with I will never be poor. In the early 80s, they were 401k plans were just starting to come out. And I was smart enough to see that the writing was on the wall, that pension plans were probably not going to be around. At least by the time I retired. I didn't expect that. And then I was really worried about Social Security. And I saw 401k plans as a savior, right? Okay, I can put that money away and I can assure myself that I will never be poor again. And I was in banking, and I was actually selling 401k plans rather than pension plans or profit sharing plans. And for me, I was helping people. I was helping people gain freedom, because when people feel financially secure, they are less afraid about making decisions and taking chances, right? And, again, from my background, that was a very important piece. And so I rather enjoyed that, where I realized I was doing what I had wanted to do. It wasn't social work, it wasn't psychology, but I still felt like I was helping people with something that was important to them to break through.
So, I mean, out of, what do you say? Out of self-preservation, out of, trying to break the cycle as to how we grew up, right? That we're going to break the cycle and we're going to create a better existence. And at the same time, like you said, that purpose is not just to preserve ourselves, but to help others that are in need. So when you live with a sense of purpose, you say that this really releases energy and it frees you up to be creative and it inspires you to take action, right? Mm-hmm. And in the example you just gave, it was really self-preservation that, was kind of your energy, and I'm not going to be poor again. And, I'm going to help others during my journey. For someone that may not have, maybe they've been blessed in the sense that they have not had to go through the kind of trauma that we did as kids or as young adults, right? How do you, what do you say to people that really don't have the sad story for them to really get to what is my purpose?
I actually say I feel sorry for them. And I'm being a little bit facetious, but, because I often find that when I've worked with people, because there was something significant, a significant emotional event, significant emotional events are turning points, and we create these I will always and I will never belief systems. So I will never be poor again. But then I projected that onto other people, right? So selling 401k plans, I can remember going to Amelia Island Plantation and talking to the gardeners and saying, if you just put 1 6-pack a week away, they're going to match you a 6-pack. And so that's 2 6-packs. And then over 30 years, that'll grow into 10 6-packs. And I just found so much joy at breaking that down. And so what I've learned with helping other people, trying to figure out, well, what is it? Purpose is what brings you meaning. Is you have to start with meaning. What brings you meaning? What's your joy? What's your passion? What lights your fire? That, like a singer, you have to do that every day, no matter what. even though for some people purpose of running may not be a purpose, maybe it's a purpose to be fit, to be healthy, to be so that they could be a good mother or father, so they're not so stressed. But similar, runners must run. I am not one of those. I'm not even a jogger. I do walk, but it's when you think about what brings you meaning, and not only that, what brings you happiness, what brings you contentment, that is also, and you said something really important, Cindy, is that it's in support of a larger community. It's not just me, it's a giving back, it's being of service. And so when people have purpose and meaning and it brings energy, it's because there is it's gratitude in support of other people, and like giving back, even if you don't even realize you're giving back. To me, that's what purpose is. And so when I sit down with people, I start with not just values, because those are important. And I don't start with, well, what are the significant turning points in their life? I also start with, what is it that floats their boat, that every time they do it, it brings a smile to their face, that if they do it, they could do it all day long, kind of thing. And other than because your body just got tired, you would get up and do it again. And so when it comes to working with businesses and leaders, oftentimes people aren't there. Their purpose isn't to do the next major project and to have the more complicated one. They will take a complicated one because it's challenging their mind and they like that, and that brings them joy. But oftentimes the really good leaders, it's because they like watching people grow. Mm-hmm. So they'll do something every day to help someone, another person, a coworker, a staff member grow. And that's, if we start there, just finding out what floats your boat and what really brings you joy, generally you're going to find meaning and purpose in that.
Okay, great. Thank you. In your Real Leadership book, and yes, I'm plugging it. Yes. You wrote about a gentleman by the name of Blake Mycoskie. For those of you who don't know who he is, he's the founder of Tom's Shoes. You share his experience where he created a 1-for-1 campaign that became a mission and a purpose for him. Do you recall, how that even happened for him?
Yeah. It's funny. And by the way, if any of you have a question or a comment, feel free to put it in the chat. I'm seeing names of folks that I know, and I really appreciate you showing up for this. But Blake, I remember being captivated when I saw the first commercial, where I saw this 1-for-1 commercial where buy a pair of shoes, give a pair. And I was like, wow. And, being in the business side of things, because I always felt like I needed to be in the business side, so I'll never be poor again. And I could, control my destiny that way. I thought, how's he going to make money? How is he going to do that? Or the second thought I had, those shoes are probably going to be really expensive, but I'll buy a pair just because, and I wasn't caring how much they cost, just because of what it was doing. Mm-hmm. It was, that really appealed to me. So then I looked up what happened, and he was, a young man. He's a millennial, traveling and down in Argentina. And I wish I'd met him. I don't know him personally, but traveling in Argentina, and he saw people, children growing up without shoes, and it just touched his heart. And that's the other thing about purpose and meaning. It's got to touch your heart, because that, again, that's energy, that's vibrancy, that's passion. It touched his heart so much that he wanted to do something about it. So he created a for-profit business, and he purposely did not want to rely on donations, because he felt that was not, that he could not control his destination if he had to rely on donations. And so he created the non-for-profit business. And if any of you bought Tom's shoes, they're not all that expensive. Mm-hmm. And then the idea of knowing that you're giving a pair of shoes to someone else. And he's done that with many other things now, not just shoes. He's done other stuff. And so when again, you look at what he did and his purpose, if you will, shoeing children, giving a forward, it was something that was meaningful, that brought his heart joy, but it was in service. It's in service of other people.
And basically, based on your book and based on what we do with leaders, he's a perfect example of a conscious business leader,
yes.
A conscious leader, making decisions more than just being profitable, like you said. I really, really love that story. And there's more and more of that going on now with other entrepreneurs, which is very exciting because it just helps humanity in general. So I want to share a little something. I know for many years, my purpose was to, raise a healthy, high functioning, happy children so that we could contribute in a positive way to society, not raise slugs.
Yeah, your children aren't slugs.
So, that was really my number one passion and my number one purpose. In addition to that, I worked, so a full-time mother, but also I worked full-time in the energy sector. So I had 2 full-time jobs. And, what I learned or what I ended up demonstrating, especially as a leader in the energy sector, my passion and my purpose was to ensure that the folks that I was responsible for, that they were treated, fairly, that they were treated equitably, that they had an opportunity to bloom and grow. And
you did that with your kids. You treated them fairly, you treated them, and you wanted to watch them bloom and grow.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, I wanted to build highly collaborative teams, people that could get along, people that could, make sure that they accomplish the goals on time, error-free, that type of thing. So, I really, it's not that I treated my employees like children, but I wanted to see them successful. And then, you invest your time and energy, and then they do get promoted. And it's like, great for them, but darn, I got to start all over again, So I'm happy to say I'm retired from the energy sector and am now part of Lindsay's Conscious Business, where I get to really realize and continue my passion and purpose in helping leaders and helping employees improve culture. And it is basically, being able to treat others the way you want to be treated. And that most of us want to be treated in a positive way, right? Yeah. I'm also a grandmother now. And so the beat goes on. The circle of life continues, and they're going to be high functioning, positive contributions to society. And that gives me deep fulfillment overall. So
Cindy, I know that you're going to ask me another question, but I think it might be fun if we ask people who are participating if they could put in the chat and just articulate in a few simple words. Like mine was, I just want to help people. Now it came out in a myriad of ways. 401k and, 1 carton of cigarettes and one pack of beer. And, now I'm a consultant and we do leadership development and culture and all of that. And I get a lot of joy out of that because it's the same thing. But if the participants are willing, if you all and the attendees are willing, if you wouldn't mind, put in there in the chat box, what's your purpose? What is it that really brings you joy, happiness, or brings you meaning in life? So if you can, that'd be great. Ask you to participate. And so while you're doing that, we'll pay attention to the chat. And so And then we'll move on, Cindy, with your next question.
So when it comes to your journey, the journey of purpose, um, how did the work that you did? I know you touched upon it at an early age with the 401k and reaching out to individuals to really educate them as to how they can save money, make money, right? But when it came to this evolution of your success at this point in time, when did that shift occur for you, or how did you build upon that from the 401k plan into what you've been doing for the last 32 years?
Thank you. Well, I want to share that someone just wrote in that part of their purpose in life is seeing young, disadvantaged people, those who don't have the same advantages as others, grow and have productive lives. And I won't say who this person is, but I know that in some ways that it's the same as what I have had, and Cindy, and what you have had, is that we saw inequality, right? We saw people being held back because of the neighborhood we lived in. And the ability to give somebody a leg up, to help support them. It's so simple and yet so meaningful. And to the person that wrote that, thank you. And we really honor that. So the question was that you asked me is that what got me into this side of the business, moving out of banking 401ks and being excited about people giving up one carton of cigarettes in favor of taking care of themselves financially. Very lucky that I worked for a bank, and the bank brought this organization. They're no longer in existence. They were called FAR Associates, but they brought in this organization to help us work smarter. And of course, those of you who are in business already know what kind of jokes were already made, right? Okay, we were working dumb. Great. So now we're going to work smarter. All righty then. Which, even back then in the late 80s, that was the beginning of we are about to be what we now know as reorganized. There's going to be shuffling, right? However, at the same time, this was a very humanistic approach to working smarter. And we were sent, those of us who were lucky enough to be picked, we were sent to a program that FAR Associates did that was a 5-day program around leadership, with the core of it being around awareness, being awareness-based. Long before Daniel Goleman's book of emotional intelligence and that linkage to leadership, they were doing this kind of work a bit more silently on the side. And after I attended that course, particularly the self-awareness piece, that really turned me on, because it was really combining that psychological thing that I felt like I always wanted to do, but got into banking because banking was safe. I could ensure that I wouldn't be poor. I could ensure a career. And I enjoyed what I did, helping people, with their retirement planning and ensuring their own destiny in that way. And again, that just goes along with my personal story. But when this came, and I was in a room full of other leaders who were looking at themselves and saying, well, who am I, and why am I here, and what's important to me, and in particular, I noticed, because at that time I was quite young, I noticed people in their mid 40s and 50s even questioning why they did what they did, and was it worth it? And I remember, again, another significant emotional event. I thought, I don't want to be 50, 55, 60, looking back and saying, what if, or why didn't I? And so after I attended that program, I thought to myself, okay, this is what I want to do when I grow up. This provides me meaning. This provides that psychological piece that I wanted to do. It provides that piece of helping people find their inner freedom and finding out what's important to them, because I've just felt so strongly. Fortunately, my husband went through the same program as I did. And then we decided, well, shoot, we'll learn how to do that. Why don't we do it? Knowing that we didn't know anything about training, development, executive coaching, organizational development, or anything like that. So that's where we are. We have somebody that raised their hand. Okay. And if you want to go ahead, I've put up allowing you to speak, if that's all right, Tommy, having raised your hand. You want to go ahead and make a comment or ask a question? Oh, let me unmute you. Ask to unmute. Okay. Well, I can't quite get there. So
I think I'm having
go.
problems. I was on my phone, so I think I'm having problems, and I raised my hand by mistake.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm sorry.
We now know how to do this. Okay.
Yes, I know how to do it.
Okay. Thank you.
So anyway, so we ended up being able to hang on, let me do this. We ended up being able to go to this class, and then we were able to actually figure out our purpose as we related to it in our own lives. So that's really what happened. And then a year later, the bank was being bought. The bank that we were in was being bought by First Union. But then we took the opportunity to say, take a leap. Now, at that point, I was 27 years old, and being poor again was not something I really wanted to do. And yet the same thing, it was like, well, I didn't want to be, having worked with a number of individuals and companies where I was working with people who had many regrets as they were going into retirement. And I thought, you know what? I'd rather be switching it, poor and having taken the chance, than secure and having never taken the chance. And again, that was more about passion and purpose, because I felt like what I learned at this FAR Associates program was far bigger than the 401k stuff I had been doing, even though I enjoyed it immensely. So that's how I got into the business, and Barry and I jumped at the same time. And believe me, we had to go through a lot of fear. People do it.
So for those of us that are, listening in on the Real Leadership, the Power of Purpose, I guess my question is, how many of us have really just gone day to day, hit the next deadline. There's some planning involved. But, what recommendations do you give to individuals for them to really identify? We all have a purpose. We just maybe we never said the words, right? So what recommendations do you have for an individual that wants to be a purpose-driven leader?
Well, one of the things that Barry and I've done for years when we work with folks is that we first get them to identify their values. What are the deepest values that they have? That could be religious, spiritual values, ethical values, moral values. But values are what I've always liked to say are the rules or the guideposts of your life. And you're going to work to live within that. And caring for people, treating people with respect, being helpful, not lying, whatever those kinds of values are. And in one of the programs that we do, we call them their end state. When you leave this world, because there's none of us getting off this planet alive. We're all ending somewhat in the same way. Now, how we do that is a different story, but we've only got so much time. And even if we do believe in past lives, you don't remember them most of the time anyway. So let's focus on this one.
Right.
And what do you want to do to make it your best? So I like to start with values, but while I feel values are really, really important, I want to know from that person, what is it when I'm sitting down with an executive, when I'm sitting down with an individual, what is it really, 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 really deep within their hearts that's the most important thing that they want to do that they can't live without? And so sometimes what I've learned is that the work supports the purpose. And then sometimes your purpose is your work. So there's some of us, my second most, I would have to say it's tied. I'm very concerned about the climate and our planet and pollution and leaving it in a good way. But if I also contribute to nonprofits, it's always going to be about caring for children. So for many years, still do, very large supporter of Save the Children. So while my work is not in Save the Children, my work is not in going out and actually cleaning up the waters and things like that. I do the work helping leaders. And then, I have the funds or the time or the means or the capability to then support those people who are doing that. And there's a number of things. I mean, I could, there's lots of things that, Cindy, you and I talk about that we think are really important. But then if I take a look at where do I want to spend my time, it's like a bank account. I've only got so much time in my bank account. So I've got my work, my family, and then the things that I support, I have to be selective. And that's one of the things with purpose too, purpose and meaning, is unfortunately, you do have to be selective because you can do anything. It's just really hard to do everything. Mm-hmm. We just don't have enough time to do everything we want to do.
Right.
So
pick. Sue, thank you so much. One, for just really sharing your insights and the magic, right, on the power of purpose, especially when it comes to real leadership. For those of you that joined us or will be watching us, when we put our replay up, we hope that you got something meaningful out of this first of our series in Real Leadership. Join us next month when we will be talking about how to meditate and the importance of silencing the noise. I call it the monkey mind. Quiet that thing down so that you can find your inner wisdom. That really is a benefit to a leader. It's a benefit to really any and all of us, because there's just so much noise in the world right now, right? If you're interested in learning more about developing a sense of purpose, or if you're interested in executive coaching, or you want help transforming your culture or need support with leadership development, please reach out to us at info@lcbgroup.com.
And again, I see a lot of names that I recognize. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you for joining. And for those of you who know me personally, you know that this really is my purpose and my passion. And so I would give one more thing is find your passion. What is it that you're really passionate about that again gets you up in the morning, and find a way to do it every single day.